So raising money was my biggest dilemma when I first went self-employed and took the plunge to jump into property full time. You see, no matter how cash rich we all are, you'll always run out of money. Yet having done so and done it successfully, raising money changed my life and the lives of those I worked with. So this video is going to be about exactly that. For anyone looking to raise money ethically, however daunting it may seem, do not worry. I'm probably the most shyest introverted person you'll ever meet. So if I can do it, you can definitely do it. So whether it's raising money for a new venture or for your existing business, it's possible. We have to know it's possible, as I'll explain in this video. So the first thing you're probably thinking is why? But let's park the why for now, as that's more of a mindset thing and something I will explain maybe in a future video. But let's go with where. Where do people with money, not able to utilize it in the right way to get themselves the best returns, either down to a lack of time, skill set or resource, reside? Rich hotels perhaps? Maybe. Or how about the typical coffee shop investor meetings that we've all spoken about and we've all done? Maybe. Or maybe we should just look a little bit closer to home and maybe check those sofas for a few coins. I'm just kidding. Although I'm sure many of you have a bit of spare change lying around. Now, although it's possible to do all of these things, there's some underlying things that really need to be known and done before anyone will ever really part with serious money to invest with you. Now, before I begin and explain the steps that have helped me on my journey and will help you, I promise you, I would like to kindly ask if you could just subscribe to the channel. Please click the notification bell right next to it. Also, don't be afraid to smash that thumbs up button. It'll help me, but it'll also help others benefit from this information too, as there is an abundance of resources out there for us all to share. And of course, comment afterwards if there are any questions, and I'll try my best to obviously get back to you. In fact, I will get back to you. So, moving on to point one. The first point is transparency. And I was doing this maybe 8 or 9 years ago with pretty much all aspects of my life, not just the highlight reels. You see, I never used to say all the clever words. I would just be myself, and I was just thinking out loud and sometimes expressing the things that was going on in my head, the things I was doing, and whether they were either good or bad in terms of their outcomes. Now, for property, it's really important to show this to your investors. So your investors know, or potential investors may be watching you right now, get to know you. So here you can see one of my worst deals ever. In fact, at this point, I kind of had the thought, is property even for me? In fact, I documented this property journey almost on a weekly basis, and people started to see me, people started to understand me, and almost felt like they got to know me. Now, more so trying to give people value and make sure that they didn't make the same mistakes as myself, I was literally probably criticizing myself on a weekly basis. Now you're probably thinking, how would that help? Well, it does help, because off the back of this, I then learned from those mistakes. I became a better person. I was more resilient. I never gave up, and actually made all my money back on the next project straight afterwards. And the funny thing is, after this project, I was actually offered some money from a close friend who knew I was eager to learn, knew that I had learnt my mistakes. However, I turned it down. And this was just a personal thing. You see, I still went alone on my next few ventures, because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to lose anyone's money, it was my money, not somebody else's money. And I understand this may not always be feasible for some people who may not have money to start with, but that's why I always recommend you at least know your stuff. But that too will be a video for another day. So this is why transparency is very, very key. And now moving on to just the current deal that we're doing, things are getting a little bit saucy now, and we've had an offer which actually meant if we flipped the project, we would have made around £150,000 with 130,000, well, around that figure. I think it's 133 to be exact, of capital allowances, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, if this is going over your head, please don't worry. There are videos coming out for this in the future. So, point 2, values. Now, for anyone thinking, don't worry. When I was first asked my values, I had no idea either. What the hell is a value? Who's got mine? Should I know? Don't worry, I can help with all those questions, especially if you're subscribed, as videos are coming thick and fast. But for now, let's just stay focused on the task of raising money for you. So I've just done a few of my own values here, and these are values that I have very, very close to my heart, and values that I would live and I'd like to say die for as well. That's how much I really believe in some of these stuff. And of course, I've just put some that are, I'd like to think values of mine or values of yours, just to give you an idea of what kind of values you may already have, but may not have assigned the word value to it. Now, it's all good and well knowing your values, but what about the values of the investor? You see, I've previously turned down opportunities of working with people because our values were just not aligned. Now, this isn't a slight on the person, by the way, but for me, I need to work with somebody who I can resonate with, and money alone won't simply sway that. I don't put money on a pedestal. So I kind of see raising money as maybe a jigsaw piece. And maybe for yourself, you have everything else, but you're just missing that jigsaw piece. But for an investor, they may be missing all the other pieces and may only hold that piece. So in fact, to complete the puzzle, you need all your pieces. I hope that analogy made sense. And the next slide is me in my daytime gear. Now, this is how I operate on a daily basis as a living day superhero. But of course, more importantly, I'm speaking about integrity. So integrity for me is the top of the value list. I love people who say what they do and do what they say, not necessarily just say the right things. Of course, it may not be for you, but I would definitely try and up your integrity game and maybe look for investors with integrity as well. And of course, a shameless plug, but I've done numerous podcasts on this, which I will link in the description below, on how to live with integrity. Next up, we have experience. Now at this point, I need to let you know that you can't forget points 1 and 2. You see, if you're not transparent with how long you've actually been in the game, then you're losing those values. You're being dishonest. You're using bad values and you're just not being transparent. At the same time, I see so many people who may have seen their parents invest, or they may have bought a property 10 years ago and then never looked at property again, and claim that they've been in the industry for 10 years. How much actual work have you done in those 10 years? This is really, really important, especially when you sit down with investors. Otherwise, you're going to make silly mistakes and it's going to burn you. And I don't want anyone listening to this video to go out there and burn themselves, and more importantly, burn their investors as well, because your reputation is everything. Now, other things we need to be looking at is learning. So for example, myself, I have a 5-year degree in construction project management. And the project management side of that I've used as part of my skills. I can't do any DIY, but I'm a numbers guy. I can calculate numbers with my fancy little spreadsheets, and I can project manage a course. But there's other types of learning as well. There are books and there are podcasts, and podcasts are one of the things that obviously I do, find your voice. But more importantly, for property related, there are absolutely loads of resources out there. So moving on. The next point is relationships. Now, relationships is really, really important because many of you may not recognize that you may actually have a lot of finance ready to go right this second. Now, I can see you all looking around because many of us think most of our investors are going to come from Facebook or Instagram, or how well we do marketing ads. Maybe. However, I reckon if you look a little bit closer to home, perhaps, and you look at your dad, your aunt, your best friend, maybe even a co-worker, or perhaps your neighbor, there could be someone closer than you think who has money ready to invest right this second. And just to prove that, my neighbor, who has known me since I was a child, actually has 6 figures plus invested with me right this second, and we give him a very, very healthy return on a monthly basis. Very healthy. And of course, then we have telephone conversations, Skype, Zoom, FaceTimes, face-to-face meetings, coffees, or as I prefer, beers. These are all great ways to start to build rapport with people. Now, before I discuss point 5, your brain may be ticking over thinking, why would they offer me money? I get it. I had the exact same thoughts. But you also have something to offer too, and this is where I think you need to know your worth. But if you just come off a crash course that was free in some dodgy little hotel, then please don't touch anyone's money. Please, please, please. Or if you've just read a book or you've heard a podcast and instantly you're motivated, stop it. Do not play around with somebody else's money. Learn the trade, learn the experience, be patient with it, please. However, if you have time and you have an element of security, knowledge, or the ability to provide interest or an asset off the back of a working relationship, then your offering is just as important. So know this and be confident about this, especially when you speak to your investors. Now at point 5, I've called it whispers, which likely makes you think of the chocolate. But just stay with me. You see, what I mean by this is, what are people saying about you when you are not there? You see, people who know you, have seen you for years, watched you, how do they explain you? How do they say you operate? And how do you live? Are you loyal, kind, reliable perhaps? Or are you hardworking or creative? The words of others can help you. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, just be a good person. Be more of yourself. Do not fake it until you make it, please. That just doesn't work in the long run. Be patient and get used to walking before you start sprinting. A little bit like this snail on this video that just kind of cropped up and still seems to be crawling. So if you made it this far, not only are you an absolute legend, but I also want to extend my hand and say thank you. I do these videos to try and help you as much as possible and to try and time collapse your journeys to make your life easier and less painful for every single one of you out there. Please be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more weekly videos to help you not only find your voice, but go out there and write your own story. Stay safe and thanks for listening.